As a small business owner, you deserve more. More confidence, more connectivity, more of the tools that help your business thrive. And at Cox Business, you can expect more from us. We don't just have sales reps. We have perfect plan identifiers. People who will work with you to make sure your business gets everything it needs and nothing that it doesn't. Your business deserves more, and that's why you can expect more from Cox Business. Call 800-526-8572 to switch today.
There's nothing more predictable in life than the unexpected. Lightning will always strike. Hail will fall on roofs. Fortunately, there's AAA. AAA has been helping members stay prepared for over 100 years. So when unusual storms, fallen debris, or sudden leaks happen, you'll be covered. Check, check, and check. Get the home and auto insurance you need by talking with a AAA insurance agent today. Visit AAA.com/insurance or stop by your local AAA store.
If you prefer real mornings, shouldn't you have a real breakfast? At McDonald's, we get real about breakfast. That's why you can have a savory sausage biscuit with delicious hash browns for only $1.50. It's time to wake up breakfast. Single item at regular price. Prices and participation may vary. Cannot be combined with any other offer or combo meal.
Thoughts of suicide may feel impossible to overcome. But with help and support, you can find hope and meaning. Call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-TALK to speak to a counselor, or visit suicidepreventionlifeline.org. It's free, it's confidential, it's available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And even if it feels like it, you're not alone.
And there I go. I did the and. Damn it.
And
the and. What's up? This is Cyber Wars, and it has been a hell of a week. I was telling Orty before, when we were doing show prep right before the show, everything this week has been bullshit, and we're about to tell you why. How have you been, Orty?
I'm doing great. Well, I'm doing okay. One of the reasons why we didn't have a foobar tonight was I saw a Cairo today, and I feel like I got hit by a truck. But on the good side, I got a new desk fan, so I can stop making soup when we do the shows. And if you guys hear a high-pitched whine in the background, let me know. I'll adjust things or whatever. Luke can hear it, but it may not translate out to y'all in podcast land. So
it sounded
keep me posted.
It's sounding fine right now. You know how everything changes when we hit the live button?
Yeah, usually for the worse.
But this time maybe not so much. And
right.
Not good, because I hate to jinx it. But so yes.
Yeah, we got all the gremlins out prior to the show for once.
Right, yeah. So.
When I was sitting there going, fuck it, we'll fix it in post. We're doing it live.
Yeah, so here we are. It's been a week, man.
It's been a week, man. Has it been a week?
Yeah. Did we decide we were going to talk about the VPNs first?
Well, yeah, the VPNs are a quick hit. We'll hit that, and then we'll go into the systemic layers of failure of the internets over the week.
Yeah,
But
and the bullshit stories from the people affected, which are which are absolutely the best. I mean,
they are.
it's been a week for that, and so go ahead. Let's do the VPNs. You start.
Yeah, earlier this week, 7 different VPNs in Hong Kong all had their data compromised. Now, the problem with these, and Lou and I were talking about it before the show, is all of these VPNs are what are called white label VPNs. What a white label VPN is, they're generally free, part of a bundle, and it'd be like, one of the major services that offers a white label service is Nord, where like we could have a KLRN VPN, and it's basically NordVPN that we just rebrand. We put our shell over it, and so these 7 VPNs in Hong Kong were all compromised and released data of their users, which in Hong Kong is a no-no. Well, it's not a no-no that, it's bad. I mean, it's bad in Hong Kong. It's a no-no now because the Chi-Com government has put their boot down on that fine little area. And so a lot of the users' data was compromised.
Yeah, and it had to be Hong Kong, right?
Yeah, it had to be Hong Kong.
It had to be Hong Kong, and the interesting. There were so many interesting things about this to me. The biggest one, it being Hong Kong, and these logs and data and people and IP addresses just kind of end up on the web.
Yeah, one of the VPN officers, providers, UFO VPN, claimed they couldn't lock down its data quickly due to the pandemic-related staff changes, and that the only logs that they maintained were for performance monitoring issues. But the data that was released shows that that's not true, where their zero-log claim, the data that was breached was names, searches, and in Hong Kong, with the way the regime is in there right now, that's not good.
No, it's really bad, and so regardless of like when it happened or how it happened or how free Hong Kong may have felt like they were, or China allowed them to be in the past. I mean, we know the capabilities of Chinese cyber. So, I mean, they were guaranteed they were in all their networks. So they're in half of our networks, as we've talked about on this show before. So they're in all their networks. They know what the hell is going on. If they're going to target networks, VPN providers are going to be, the first one. And they were logging those people's names, addresses, IP addresses. I mean,
searches, everything.
Yeah, there's
traffic, where they were going. Hey, right. This falls under the umbrella of segments that we occasionally do of protecting yourself from yourself. When it comes to VPN, antivirus, malware, and things like that, you get what you pay for. And if the service is free, there is nothing actually free. They're getting it from another angle, whether they are selling your data or throwing ads in your face. So when it comes to things like security, especially your own personal information security or your browsing habits, when you're in when you're right under the nose of an authoritarian regime, you want to pay for your anonymity, as much anonymity as you can afford, and protection.
Yeah, that's don't use a free service, and that's something that I've always been told, something I feel like I've always known. Free services are, you get what you pay for, right? So don't use a free service, and check. There are resources online. Almost every VPN service says that they don't log, but there are resources online. Researchers, check into that kind of thing, and some of them actually do, and they're kind of shady about how they say they don't, but they do. Like, they'll log for 7 days and then destroy the logs. But and say that they don't log or they don't keep logs. And so just be really careful. I've read a lot on Nord, for instance, which is one that we talk about a lot. The one problem that they had with third-party servers, which I believe they've made that on transparent on their site. When you choose a server, they let you know if it's third party. And they're from everything that I've read and everything that I can tell, their no logging policy is legit.
Well, they're actually in a country that doesn't require logging, because a lot of them that say that they'll have a 7-day logging period. That's because they're based out of a country that requires they do some logging.
Yeah,
at least 7 days worth. So like again, Nord, they're in a country that has no logging laws required, so they are, for all intents and purposes, truly logless.
Yeah, and I everything that I've read says that they really are logless. So I mean, that's a good VPN to use, in my opinion. If you're in Hong Kong, not that, and Nord's probably banned in Hong Kong. I don't know, but yeah. So but be careful, and we're always here if you have questions. If we don't know the answer, we'll do the research and find out. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But yeah, nothing, it's like our parents always told us. There's no such thing as a free lunch. There's no free rides. Nothing on the internet is free. Well, Twitter's free. No, that's because you're the product, not the consumer. So
Exactly. Yeah. And that's social media.
That's all social media.
Yeah. And for a lot of things, if the service is free, that means you're the product.
Right.
So
you want to get on to the very, very terrible, bad, not good week of internets.
Yeah, let's talk about the Twitter hack first.
You want to talk about the Twitter hack? Going back in the Wayback Machine, Cloudflare would have been first. But yeah, let's talk about Twitter, since that's the big news story, and because I just mentioned it.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So and it was, of all the hacks that I've ever known to take place, this was one of the craziest. This one's definitely strange. This was not only just the methods, but the way it was used. The way that it was used was really interesting, and the way that it was used publicly was just one of the ways that it was used. It was used behind the scenes in other ways, and most of it was to make money. Most of it was, so it could fall, it would fall into a financial cybercrime, in my opinion, because one thing that they did behind the scenes was sell OG accounts. So And this is one of the funny things that came out of it, so I'll tell the story at the same time. Sell OG accounts on the dark net. So an OG account would be like at IM, right? Or at IA.
At 6.
But at 6 was one of them
that was actually
this and this was, and that was, we know, was actually hacked, because the person who administered it was found that he was logged out of it, that there had been a password reset, and he's actually a technical researcher, so he found out a little bit. But the backstory of this, if you recognize the Twitter handle at 6, it belonged to Adrian Lamo, who was the source that ratted out Chelsea Manning, right? So he's a hacker. That was
he passed away in 2018, by the way.
He's been dead for 2 years, and this guy, Lucky, who's a researcher, has been managing or administering his Twitter account for the rest of that time. He got an alert through Google, because he's smart enough to use Google, right? Google Voice for the
text messaging,
the phone number that he had associated with the account. But so he got an alert. It said that there had been a password reset on that account, which he hadn't done. So he knew something was wrong. But according to him, because of the way that it happened and what he saw, he believes that they were actually intercepting, and this can be done because some of us had looked into how it could be done in the past, like a few years ago. I was working with some people that were looking at how this could be done. They were intercepting or redirecting that password reset through the key and through the actual electronic transfer and the URL. So that's what he believes happened to these accounts, which would be completely different than anything else that has been said about how this happened. And there's like 4 or 5 other crazy stories about how it happened, and we should talk about some of those too. Did you see the Japanese hacker?
No, that one I didn't see.
Yeah, supposedly. So when it happened, so that like the kind of the big tech blogger guys like Brian Krebs and guys like that, the malware blogger guy, malware tech blog, that he was arrested at DEF CON for having something to do with creating the Chronos. I can't remember. His name is like on the tip of my tongue right now. I can't remember it right now. But
are you talking about Brian Krebs or
no? Not Krebs.
Okay.
This is.
I was going to say, whoa! I didn't hear about.
No. This is another guy, Maurice. So Maurice and Krebs are both getting DMs from people all over Twitter telling them it was these people over here, it was these people over there, and one of the guys that emerged as the possible person that did it was a Japanese hacker with like blue eyes. I've never seen a Japanese person with blue eyes. Have you?
Without getting into a whole Big Trouble in Little China thing with green eyes, no.
Yeah, I have no idea. Like I'd never seen this guy before, so I don't know his backstory. But a Japanese. So that was one of the stories. The Japanese hacker that hacked Twitter. So it's attributed to him. And then the other really great story that I shared with you was, there's, besides, it was the teenage pranksters, right? So,
yeah.
And this was in the New York Post. So, the, supposedly this, like, teenage kid,
who's going by the name of Kirk,
was bragging to some other kids about how he worked at Twitter and he had like access to all these accounts, and then so now they think that it was a bunch of kids that did it. Well, it's summertime, right? They've been out of school for way too long. We talked about summer skids earlier in one of our earlier shows, so not that this would surprise me too much, but I don't really think that. I mean, there's always every hack. There's always kids that claim it.
Right. I mean, to give some backstory for those of you who have been under a rock and don't know what actually happened with this hack, is that access to about 130 accounts on Twitter, high-profile accounts like Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Kanye, Beyonce, Bill Gates, so on and so forth, all had their accounts compromised, and several of the accounts started tweeting out a Bitcoin scam, where if you send me 1,000 in Bitcoin, I'm getting back to the community, I'll send you back 2,000, things like that. So, while this was going on, and it only was active, the hack itself was only active for like 35, 40 minutes before it started to get shut down. They were able to get, yeah, it wasn't long, but they were able to get approximately $280,000 from people dumb enough to fall for this. So it's, and the scam was send me 1,000 and I'll send you back 2,000. Who falls for this shit? Right. Yeah. I mean, these are the people who obviously would have fallen for the Ugandan prince
Right, yeah.
scam as well.
Yeah. You've inherited $10 million, but we need you to send us $4,500 to get it.
Right. And the routing number for your checking account.
Right, exactly.
Right. Yeah, so, and, in the time right after this happened, Twitter locked down all the accounts that were comparable. Actually, locked down all blue checks. It was a beautiful day where there were no blue checks active on Twitter for an hour or two, and it was just, it was the utopia we all want. And so it stopped being a hell site it turned really red for a little while too. Anyway, but so that's what the hack on our side of it. As the hack started to unfold, pictures of the admin screen of Twitter admin and what they are actually capable of doing and not doing started to be exposed, and of course Twitter suspended accounts, anybody who was posting those pictures. The things that everybody says, Twitter can't do that with the shadow banning, whether you're get delisted off searches and things like that, is actually true that it can be done where you won't show up in trends, you won't show up on searches, you won't show up on feeds, basically making you a non-person. But this whole thing was started by a term we like to use in the SimSwap community. They really like to have low, short name Twitter handles. It's a fame fag thing to say that I've got @Joe. Because as Twitter and as all social media platforms expand and grow, the availability of those small names vanishes. So it becomes kind of like it's a collector's item. Like if you go back 20 years, if you had an ICQ number of less than 6 digits, you were OG.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and they sold those. That was the other way that they
and they sold those. I mean, it's like you can it's like I said, as a collector, you can sell them for a few $1,000s.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it's a status thing in this community.
Yeah. Definitely it is, especially with hackers, because they want to be OG everything, right? Like you said, it's a fame fact thing. So, it was absolutely the craziest hack in the world. So they got into Twitter's story, right, was that some of their employees fell prey to a social engineering scam, right? So you have to think that a Twitter employee that is trusted with access to verified accounts got a phone call from somebody who said, hey, I need access to this. And I mean, maybe they said, I'm working from home. I forgot my password. Can you help me get in? And pretended to be another employee or whatever, with the baby crying in the background and, the things that social engineers do on the phone. And, maybe that happened, but that would be crazy. I don't know that I keep trying to think of ways that you social engineer a Twitter employee with access to verified accounts to give you access to.
Well, I joked about this on Twitter when it happened. I said, this is what happens when you hire employees based off of ideology and not skill.
Well, yeah.
As the social engineering story was coming out from Twitter, because that makes more sense. It's like, hey, I'm dumb and broke and living in San Francisco where the rent's 8 times what I can afford for a studio apartment. I'll take a couple $1,000s or whatever.
Well, that was the other story that came out not from Twitter, is that the employee took a bribe to do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Which also has yet to be verified. Now, in the story is that one of these kids somehow got access to Twitter's Slack and was able to weasel their way into. Anyway, so
they got into the Slack channel and pretended to be an employee, and that's how they got access.
That's that's from another one of the stories that I saw.
That's one that I might be like, okay.
I might buy that one.
Yeah, I might buy that one.
So.
That's closer than a lot of the other ones I've seen. And by the way, Malware Tech Blog is Marcus Hutchins. Maurice was Guccifer one. So
okay.
I would, if I was going to mention him, I want to get him right. But he got DMs from people saying, "Hey, we know who it was. It was this guy." So, I mean, you know, just the crazy things that happen on Twitter, right?
Right.
Yeah, and it was high profile enough that there are going to be people that are claiming it that had absolutely nothing to do about it. People are going to claim this. Like, I expect Gator League to jump in or Lizard Squad to jump in and say that it was them like any minute now. I'm surprised they haven't already. Maybe they have. I should check.
Yeah. You know who was on top of their game in this whole thing, and it wasn't Twitter, was Coinbase.
Yes. Tell that story.
The cryptocurrency company, they right when it was going down, when they figured out what was going on, they ceased transfers from their customers to that Bitcoin wallet, and they prevented nearly 1,000 users from getting scammed and sending, at the time, was 30.4 bitcoins which was the value that they were looking for, about $1,000, to the hacker's wallet. Yeah, and they said they noticed within about a minute of the Gemini and Binance tweets that what was going on with all this. So yeah. I mean, you know, credit to Coinbase for, you know, staying on top of that shit.
Yeah, and talk about protecting users from themselves, right? They're like, right. No, sorry, you're not. That's like when your bank. I mean, that's pretty good. That's like when your bank denies a transaction because they think that it's not you. They knew that it was probably their users, right. But they weren't going to let them do it anyway. Like, you know, no, we're not letting you fall.
Yeah,
for
we're
this
saving
scam.
You from you dumbass.
Yeah, we're not letting you fall for the scam.
Right.
That's beyond like what your bank does for you. That's pretty good.
Yeah, that's like when your bank calls, you know, verify the last 3 transactions, then you'll have one legitimate transaction, one of them with like some United Kingdom company, and then the gas station you were just at 10 minutes ago. Yeah, 2 out of 3 is not bad. So.
Yeah, exactly. But this is even better. It's like, this is a scam. We're not letting you do this. It's like they're your mom or something. No.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
No.
So, but this whole thing is alleged to have come out of the SIM swapping community. These are people who pretty much steal phone number, SIM card access.
Right.
So, I mean, and that's how Jack got a few months ago. Jack, the CEO of Twitter.
And that's that is a total speculation too, I think.
No, you know what? There's enough evidences there. So I'm going to say probably. I mean, it would not surprise me that Jack is the kind of person who would have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 as his password, but you know.
No, I mean that this particular hack came out of the SIM swapping.
Well,
community.
they're the ones who find value in the short handles. So that's what, you know. Anyway.
Yeah, I know, and that's it. So we're gonna get into my opinions about attribution later, but that's one of those things that people use for attribution that I don't like. I'm not gonna say no, you're absolutely wrong about that, but that part of it is a bit of speculation. Like, that's taking a leap from, you know, that's like saying, who stole my ice cream? Well, right. Lou likes ice cream, so
sure, okay,
yeah.
All right, yeah.
So that's sorry, but that's a little bit of speculation. But it's like, you know, I watched a video. It's on my TL from a CIA person. It was a presentation on how to tell when somebody is lying. So with attributions, you kind of look at clusters. So
body odor, we talked about that last week.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, so, right. So you look at clusters. So if there's enough items in a cluster, and you know, she was talking about 3 within 5 seconds. Well, for a hack attribution, it would have to be a lot more than that, in my opinion. But so you look at things in clusters. So if it's, that could be one of the things in the cluster, but it's, it would have to be a lot to make that to make an attribution based on stuff like that. But at any rate, but I don't believe, I haven't seen it, and so this is kind of the theme of the story we're telling, right? I haven't seen a story yet that I fully buy. The one about getting access to the Slack, I partially buy.
Yeah. I mean, all things being equal, that's the equalist.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, I think so too, but.
The takeaway in all of this, though, another segment of protecting you from you, protecting your Twitter account.
Yeah, and I've tweeted these things many times, and it's hurt me when I'm trying to dox people because people are doing it. But I'm not going to stop telling people just because of that. So there are things in, that you can set up in your privacy and security settings. And I'll go through a couple of them, but I'll tweet the screenshots again, sometime in the next 24 hours. And so keep a watch for it. But for one thing, there is, under security, you can tell Twitter that you want to provide additional information in order to request a password reset. This is the absolute best one, because someone can't just do a password reset and get, even if they have your phone number, they're not going to be able to reset your password without knowing the email address that is associated with your Twitter account. So set that one, but you also have to set under discoverability that no one, see, these are things that you uncheck, that you can be found by email or found by phone number, because then people can't see what and figure out which phone number and which email you have associated with your account.
Which is funny because, I mean, Twitter being Twitter, everybody I know on Twitter is on Twitter because they didn't want the normies in their life to be able to find them there like they already had on Facebook. So, like, when Twitter asks, hey, do you want to import your Outlook contacts? No.
Yeah.
When they say, do you want people to be able to find you by your phone number? No.
Yes, exactly. Definitely no. And so what happens, and if you've ever had to reset your password, you know this. You can go to the reset password page and put someone's Twitter handle in there, and it pops up a mostly redacted, but not completely redacted.
It gives the service provider in the first couple letters.
Right. The phone number and email that's associated with that account. So if you know already, and there are many ways to find out what someone's possible phone numbers or email addresses are, you automatically know what's associated with that account. Then you can use that information to do a password, to do a SIM swap with their provider and steal their Twitter account, do a password reset and steal their Twitter account. Or, there are other hacker ways to get that information that I kind of buy the guy, the explanation that I'm going to drop this one because it's really technical, but a lot of you will probably get it. I'll drop it in there in a minute because I'll go on with the next point while you're digging up. The other thing you'll want to do is two-factor authentication. Now, I know it's a pain in the ass to always have to get that goddamn wait for that text message for your 2FA. But really, it's short of, someone swapping your SIM, it's a pretty effective means. And even last year,
Twitter realized that that two-factor authentication wasn't that secure. So what you can do now is you can disassociate your phone number with your Twitter account as long as you have an app on your computer. Right now, or at the time of the last time I checked, it was only available for Twitter on desktop, but you could get an app for your computer that would have a security key. So that way, whenever Twitter asked, you'd get a corresponding security key, and that's how it knew that was you on that device.
Yeah.
So at the time, there weren't I know there's some okay ones that you can get on mobile devices. Excuse me. But that's really something, if you use Twitter for desktop, it's much better than 2FA.
Yeah, and you can always do 2FA with a Google number, which if you adequately secure your Google account and it's not like first name, last name, and all those other things are done, and you use a Google number for that, it's also, fairly safe. 2FA is a little controversial, but it's also really good, and a lot of people really swear by it. So there's that. The thing that makes it dangerous with things like Twitter is the fact that you have those other Find Me by Phone turned on, and people can see what that phone number is. One last thing that you should do is create an email account that is not associated with anything else in your life. Never associate it with anything else in your life. I suggest Proton Mail, because they don't come up on any kind of broker reports or anything like that. They're not. It's a very secure communication. If it's encrypted, and if anybody is ever able to get into that Proton, do a reset through an associated email account and get into that Proton Mail, everything that's in it is wiped out. It's completely encrypted and it's gibberish. Nobody can read it. So I recommend that as an email. Associate that with your Twitter account. It's not associated to anything else. And if you do these things, it is going to be very, very, very difficult for anybody to ever get into your Twitter account. Also, a long randomized
password.
Yeah.
And we've talked about password generators and password keepers many times. They are the most valuable tool you will ever have in your digital life.
Yep.
Now.
Yeah, absolutely.
So use the password random generator. Make it stupid long. Whatever the longest is that service, whether you're signing up for Amazon or for, Twitter or whatever. Whatever you're putting a password in, when it says enter between 7 and 14 characters, use the 14. Generate a random password and just make it, allow uppercase and lowercase and special characters. Yes, yes, and yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think we've probably beat this horse to death. So
yeah, you want to go to a break since we started late, then we'll come back with our other fun stuff?
Yeah, let's go to break.
Okay.
We'll be right back.
My son was in the Army back during Desert Storm. But even then, he wanted an MBA. He looked at a dozen schools, but only one offered the online education and flexibility he needed while he was in a tent in Iraq. Grantham University. Turns out that Grantham's been delivering affordable, relevant college and advanced degrees for over 65 years. Heck, if they can deliver a quality education to a soldier in a tent overseas, think about the flexibility Grantham can offer you so you can earn your degree too. It doesn't matter how complicated or full your life is, if getting a degree is on your bucket list, you'll want to do what my son did. You'll want to call Grantham. Find out how easy it is to get started on your education so you can check that college degree off your bucket list. Call Grantham right now, 800-910-1370. That's 800-910-1370. Flexible, affordable, relevant. Call 800-910-1370.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
Smells, tells, hells, bells, misspells, knocks me on my knees. It didn't hurt, flirt, blood, squirt, stuff, shirt like me on a tree. After I count down 3 rounds in hell, I'll be in good company.
We're back, and Orty is jamming out to something. Having fun. Okay, so the next most craziest, most bullshit story that happened on the internet this week was Cloudflare. So, Cloudflare, in case you don't know, is primarily a DDoS protection service. So it sits between, you have a Cloudflare name server, which is just a hosting server where your site stays, and their DDoS protection sits between you and the internet, where people might try to take your site down, and it deflects that, and it protects you from getting a distributed denial of service attack. And so it is overly used. I mean, it's used by tons of companies and people and organizations. Antifa uses it a lot. There's a lot of Antifa sites behind Cloudflare protection. And they have hundreds of servers.
One of the things that, how I knew that something was going on was, before word of it even got out, really, was that I was unable to read Twitchy and Discord went down at the same time. Now that usually screams DDoS attack to me with whoever. I was bemused to find out that both Twitchy and Discord use the same service. So, in fact, in all the articles, Bleeping Computer, TechCrunch, all of them, Discord was the number one mentioned service that was affected by this outage, which I kind of have to, I'm a huge fan of using Discord. I like Discord, but the fact that it went from a, spunky little gaming VoIP program just a few years ago to it being so large that every story we have talked about, the Twitter hack went down, was organized and all that, allegedly organized on Discord. Discord going down with the Cloudflare DNS drop. And they've really made a name for themselves in the last couple of years. And, I'm proud to have been an early adopter.
Yeah. So Cloudflare, this is the crazy thing about it. So their story as to why their service went down was a single router in Atlanta had an error. I have not talked to a single InfoSec.
Even not being an InfoSec, I don't buy that story.
No, exactly. It's crazy.
To have a single point of failure for that when you protect sites like League of Legends, Shopify, Politico, and hundreds of other. No, you don't have a single point of failure like that.
Politico was another one that went down, and so, I mean, the other interesting thing is, so every network has redundancies built in. Every site that is behind Cloudflare is on two separate name servers, right?
Generally,
no, it is. I mean, you can look at the Who Has records.
Yeah, primary, secondary. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
okay,
yes. There's a primary and a secondary for every single site I've ever looked at, and it's a bunch that are on Cloudflare. So this is, you would have to assume that this is their redundancy policy, that they have every site that is contracts with them is on a primary and a secondary name server. This is standard protocol. For all hosts in the universe. I've never once seen a Who Has record for anyone with just one name server on it. Never. I've seen 4, but I've never seen just one. So, if it's a redundancy, then those separate name servers are being routed through a different router. One would assume, if you're doing your job correctly, and I would think that since they're the most used DDoS protection in the world, that they're doing their job correctly. I mean, this is basic stuff, right?
You have to wonder, though, because here's the tweet from CEO Matt Prince of Cloudflare said that we had an issue that impacted some portions of the Cloudflare network. It appears that a router in Atlanta had an error that caused bad routes across our backbone that resulted in misrouted traffic to POPs that connected to our backbone. Okay, so looking at this as a damage control thing, do you claim that your shit is so jinky that this could take down your whole network, or do you admit that you as a DDoS defender got taken down by a DDoS?
Okay, so a POP is a point of presence, right? So it's it's basically a point of entry for, a network that it route. So it doesn't. I don't want to use the wrong word, but it aggregates.
Right.
Yeah, it aggregates equipment. Okay. So so basically what they're saying is that one router, right? So
right.
This company, I can guarantee you, has hundreds, thousands of routers. One router caused all of these sites to go down. How long were they down? Did you see that anywhere?
Well, I was actually at the point that it happened. I was attempting to get on Discord with a friend so we could play some Factorio together, and it was a good hour before we were able to reconnect.
Okay.
So this was at least I want to say it was an hour of trying. There may have been maybe 15 minutes, 20 minutes where at the end of it that we just gave up.
Right.
Before it came back up. So
and so what we didn't hear, and I never heard anybody say, and I don't believe it was the case, because when they were down, and you can look at the images from Down Detector and see that when they were down,
which was also down. Down Detector was on Cloudflare too.
It also went down, but when they were down,
irony is really ironic.
But they never said that some people were unable to reach them. They said the assumption is, and I think that it was pretty clear from the stories, that nobody was able to reach them. So one router in one location took down service for absolutely everybody. And this is, I'm not, with sites that have some redundancy built in as far as their name servers. There's a primary and a secondary name server for all of these sites. So no, do not buy that. And
they're never in the same building.
Right. I don't buy that's the case.
Yeah, I don't buy this story either. Jeff and Chad is basically pulling his hair out at the thought that this would be a line that people would actually use. That, anybody who pays attention, even cursory attention to what Cloudflare is and a general understanding of the internet.
I could not agree with Jeff more. And it's something that we've talked about with him before, is that people that know things about the internet talk to the masses as if they're stupid. And we'll give
generally they are, but
but
not everybody.
That doesn't give you a right to lie to them, right? I mean, it's like you're
a CEO, not a politician.
You're a CISO. I was just about to say that. You Jinx. You owe me a Coke. So
all right.
but seriously, don't fucking do that. Yeah. Right, and it is like having been a communications professional, like what PR person made that CEO think that was a good idea? I
think I laid it out, because the other option is that the number one DDoS protection company in America got taken down by DDoS.
Well, I would.
So, like I said, in spin, look incompetent and cheap. Look cheap. Don't look incompetent.
Okay.